Will it be enough to get the Republicans who are against him to approve his nomination? And has President Trump's repeated warnings lost impact? He threatens Iran, then calls it off for a possible deal. Can they trust it this time?
Well, now what we're doing is we're talking to them in the form of a negotiation.
And dangerous wildfires spread in Washington state. Residents flee as the fires grow out of control. Today's forecast could bring relief for crews fighting those flames. And the Republicans who are adamant about Graham Plattner ending his race now silent on domestic abuse allegations inside the Republican Party and the question about principle or politics.
I'm not getting out of this race, and I'm winning in November.
If this were just between me and Todd Blanche, we would have worked this out.
Hey, 158 days, they can try it again, roll the dice.
Senate Republicans refused to blink, but did Todd Blanche just clear the way for himself as Attorney General? Good morning, everybody. I'm Audie Cornish. We're going to start with new developments overnight on the confirmation process for the president's Attorney General pick. The fight was over Trump's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. Senators John Cornyn and Tom Tillis refused to give him the green light until they got it in writing that that fund was dead. Until now, the Justice Department has refused. Then last night, Blanche posted on social media a letter rescinding the fund. Just a few hours before, Trump was touting that same fund.
This would be a reimbursement for the pain that they suffer. A lot of people like it. If they don't approve Todd, I put it back on the table. A lot of people like it. A lot of big supporters of Trump like it.
So today in the group chat, Sarah Fisher, CNN senior media analyst and senior media report at Axios, and a new friend, Marc Short, former chief of staff for Vice President Pence, and Ashley Etienne, former communications director for Vice President. Try me again. Why do you think the president keeps pushing this particular issue, even as the backlash is strong enough to prevent a lot of things from moving forward?
Because I think he knows two things can be true at once. That this issue is great for his base. It's his way of saying, come out, support me at all costs, and I'll make sure I take care of you. Remember, there was concerns that this fund could be used to compensate, for example, those that were arrested on January 6th. And on the other end of the spectrum, the other thing that can be true is that it could be putting pressure on his pick for AG. But I think he knows that he can have the rhetoric go one way, and he can have negotiations go another. And guess what, Audie? That seems to be what's happening.
It does, because Cornyn kind of got what he wants here. They posted this note saying that this anti-weaponization fund, which again was a deal that was only worked out between Trump and the Justice Department directly as a settlement, right? So there's always been this question of whether or not Blanche, as his former personal attorney, is the right person to have this conversation. The thing that's interesting is if you actually look in the document, it pretty much says all parties have to agree to changes, which would include Trump. So help me understand how this is going to work.
Well, look, I think the anti-weaponization fund was a terrible idea. The Department of Justice has the ability to give compensation for people who they feel have been wrongly prosecuted already. This was going to be divisive for a lot of people. Most Americans, Sarah noted, don't want to be funding people who assaulted, beat up police on January 6th. I think what's going to be interesting here is that I think there are a lot of senators who are probably hiding behind Tillis and Cornyn, and they wanted them to be out front. And now that Blanche has met their objections, will other senators step forward, or are they going to now fall in line as well?
Well, there's always the IRS bit, right? According to the documents, he says that the DOJ agreement does not give the president or his family blanket immunity from future tax investigations. Clarification. It's simply an agreement to not pursue any more legal action on the original tax case that led to the settlement. So lots of these legal language changes. Are they enough?
Well, I mean, I think that's the IRS settlement was what Trump really wanted out of the deal. I mean, he's got this pattern of presenting sort of two very egregious ideas and, and the media and Republicans and Democratic opposition lobbing onto one, sort of shielding the his real intent, which is this IRS settlement. The one thing I find very interesting about all of this is it all really plays to the Democrats' advantage. It plays directly into our hands. The more that the president continues to focus on, on providing settlement for those who attack the Capitol and attack police officers, and trying to shield his family from any sort of future liability really distracts from what people are really most concerned with. CNN recently put out a poll that showed that 74% of the American people believe that the president is not focused on their priorities. He's mostly focused on himself. And this is another example of that. So the more we focus on this, the more it plays our advantage.
Little changes for the people who are hiding. I'm going to play for you John Kennedy of Louisiana. And he had been saying before this Cornyn deal came out that he wasn't sure about this idea of a bill, some kind of legislation to create the fund instead of the settlement. Here's what he had to say.
The president himself has conceded that it will take legislation. I'm glad he conceded that. We'll get to shape the bill. If he wants to improve it, I'm willing to look at it, but I'm not going to give him a blank.
I have to ask you used to work for Vice President Pence, Chief of Staff. Do you think people would get behind it if they just took off the January 6th pardoned people?
I think that the January 6th part is what is most offensive to a lot of voters.
Bipartisan offensive,ness, you think?
Yeah, but I think that actually there's a lot of Republicans uncomfortable with that, too. It's not just a Democrat discomfort. So yeah, I think that's the most objectionable part. But again, I think that there's a lot of questions and other questions around this nomination. And so I think, will this all come out this week, or will this sort of announcement last night in the middle of the night on Sunday night sort of put this to bed and allow Cornyn and Tillis to step aside?
I'm starting the week assuming this nomination is going to go through eventually, but is that not the scuttlebutt in the text?
No, I absolutely think that this is going to go through. And also remember, the two senators that we're holding up here, neither of them are facing re-election, right? So at this point, they have so much wiggle room to be able to say and do what they want to go after. But ultimately, they don't want their legacies either to be the ones that blocked President Trump's hand-picked nominee for Attorney General. So they're in a contentious position themselves.
Yeah. All right, you guys, stay with me. We're going to talk about more coming up on CNN this morning. There's new information about that mass shooting at an In-N-Out, how restaurants say a random bystander helped take the gunman down. Plus, President Trump calls off strikes on Iran. He says he's turning to diplomacy. And then there's this.
Where is he? He ought to at least have a video, talk to a news organization or something.
Voters question, where's Mitch McConnell, as the deadline to call for a special election to fill his seat arrives.
CNN This Morning is brought to you by Vivguard.
Generalized myasthenia gravis is the challenge you can't plan for. But our game plan, talk to our doctors about adding Vivguard or Vivguard Hytrulo.
Both can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness, so we can do more with our days.
I could self-inject at home or my home away from home with the Vivguard Hytrulo pre-filled syringe.
Don't use if allergic to their ingredients. They can increase risk of infection and serious allergic, infusion, or injection-related reactions. Get help right away if you have rash, hives, swelling of the face, lips, throat, or tongue, breathing problems, low blood pressure, or fainting. Tell your doctor if you have infection or fever, high blood pressure, chills or shivering, chest, stomach, or back pain, vaccinations, allergies, or kidney problems. Most common side effects include respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, as well as injection site reactions for Vivguard Hytrulo.
I talked to my doctor about treatment my way.
We all did. Ask your neurologist about Vivguard.
Attention homeowners, does your roof look like this? If so, your whole home is at risk for costly damage and repairs. Protect it today with a metal roof from Erie Home. Our roofs are tested to withstand wind up to 120 miles per hour. While hail and heavy snow can destroy traditional shingles, with an Erie metal roof, it's no problem. And they're built to last with a 50-year transferable warranty. And if you call now, get up to 50% off installation. Schedule your free estimate today. Call 1-866-770-ERIE or visit eriehome.com.
In the U.S., there's a break-in every 26 seconds. Simply Safe does more than just alert. We stop crime before it starts.
Stop. This is Simply Safe. You're being monitored and recorded. I'm requesting police dispatch.
Using AI alerts, U.S.-based live agents help deter break-ins. Simply Safe. No long-term contracts. Monitoring and deterrence plans starting around $1 a day.
home inspectors, contractors, roofers. All kinds of pros recommend Leaf Filter. Why? Topped by stainless steel micro mesh, Leaf Filter is engineered for protection. In testing, Leaf Filter handles double the water volume of common hood-style guards without overflow. Our product design is driven by relentless innovation, ensuring optimal performance even in the toughest storms. And we back it all with a lifetime clog-free guarantee.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Behold, the new Harry's Plus. 5 German-engineered steel blades, premium metal handle, our most advanced pivot mechanism, at a price that makes Big Razor big mad and guys everywhere very happy. Harry's Plus.
Save up to 76% on select styles of beautiful new carpet or flooring. Plus, we'll beat any competitor's offer, guaranteed. Visit EmpireToday.com or call
800-5800. Bear the risk for the counterstrikes that Iran conducts after each of or prior to our own escalation or our strikes against Iran. And I think they have been urging for some time that we prioritize diplomacy over the continued strikes, which frankly have had some questionable efficacy in terms of an inability to move the needle on the Iranian calculus.
All right, you're using national intel speak. What I hear is we're striking, we're using military, and it is not changing Iran's position fundamentally.
That's right.
So the military thing isn't working, but is the diplomatic thing moving the ball forward in any way? What are you going to be listening for the next day or two?
So I think, one, we haven't heard yet what Iran has to say publicly about this. So some kind of public response there. I think that our allies, particularly folks like Qatar, and you asked who has the greatest heft or weight. I think it's probably the Saudis. There is credible reporting that they are the ones that compelled the president to stop. Remember Operation Freedom, which is where we were going to physically escort vessels through the strait.
Oh, yeah.
It lasted one day. There's credible reporting that it was the Saudis that convinced him to stop because they were concerned about attacks on their own infrastructure. And if I could pause for 1 second and say, I think what Iran has done in the last 10 days is shown that their power is not just concentrated on the Strait of Hormuz, but they have the ability to hit Gulf infrastructure as far as Egypt, the Red Sea, et cetera.
That tanker in Egypt definitely was eyebrow-raising at that moment. And as you said, they're all of these allies, we strike, but they're the ones who get hit, right, from the counter-push from Iran. There was some interesting reporting that CNN had over the last day or two that a senior officer in U.S. Central Command emailed emailed a broad group of military analysts asking for new ideas in the fight against Iran, writing in an email, quote, "We're looking for new creative and unconventional ways to pressure and punish Iran." I love a good crowdsourcing. However, is this unusual? Help.
Well, crowdsourcing in that fashion is a little unusual, but certainly I could see where doing more of the same thing is unlikely to yield the results that we need. And so,
wouldn't the analysts have told them this stuff before? Like, help me understand how defense is working right now. That they just, this to me seems like a constant conversation that should be happening. You shouldn't have to check in a few months down the line and see if anyone's got thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one email that we have. It doesn't mean that there haven't been similar conversations going on for some time, just because this is an email that has now come to light. I think military analysts should always and are always assessing how well is this working? What are our adversaries' vulnerabilities? Are we actually stressing those? And again, I think there's some question as to whether just continuing to strike in the way we have is going to do anything different in terms of the way the IRGC is looking at this. Their strategy all along has been to survive, avoid capitulation, and make the war so politically and economically untenable for the United States that we back off in some way. They don't have to defeat us militarily. They just have to survive the strikes. And they think time is on their side. They have a very high capacity for absorbing both economic pain and airstrikes. And I think they still think that they can win.
Can I ask you one more variable? As always, Israel. The chief of the Board of Peace will arrive in Israel. This is coming days after Trump said that Hamas and all other sort of groups in Gaza have to disarm. And over the weekend, Israel says it targeted a Hamas weapons storage facility in Gaza, left a crater at a hospital. Can you talk about how this back and forth, Hamas, Hezbollah, Israel, is going to affect this push to wrap things up with the war in Iran?
Yeah, so I don't think they have to be linked. I think Iran did link them earlier in the summer when they said a condition for us to sign the MOU is that Israel stop attacking Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. You know, Israel sees Hezbollah as an existential threat to them, and I don't think that's an ally that we can compel to back off.
Israel.
Correct.
Really?
Back off on Lebanese
But you hear
Hezbollah?
Netanyahu saying sometimes, like, well, look, we're going to understand the timing of
Sure.
President Trump and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, at least publicly.
Yeah, but if they feel that their state is threatened, that their nation is threatened by Hezbollah and its weapons, I don't think they will allow Hezbollah to conduct attacks.
But I mean the new push
yeah,
to
with
have
the
other
Saudis.
countries.
Yeah, no, I think it would be very politically problematic for the Saudi Arabians to enter the Abraham Accords. You know, they occupy a unique leadership position in both the Arab and Islamic worlds as the custodian of some of the holiest sites without some kind of concession on the part of the government of Israel regarding the fate of Palestinians in Gaza or the West Bank. It really is impossible, I think, for them to normalize relationships with Israel.
It sounds like a diplomatic Gordian knot, to be honest. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for your help. That's Lieutenant General Karen Gibson. Now, after the break on CNN, we're going to check in because there are door-to-door evacuations as the fires in Greece have exploded in size. We've got a live report from the worst hit area. Plus, AI is technically making your life more expensive. Are the benefits worth the price? In the meantime, good morning to our friends in Chicago. Look at the sunrise over the skyline.
What makes an Erie metal roof different isn't just how it's built. It's what it's built to outlast. Like a lifetime of hailstones playing hardball. Our metal roof is engineered to outlast just about anything life throws at it. 120-mile-an-hour winds, a tail breeze. Even in the summer heat, an Erie metal roof can keep its cool. Our metal roofs look as good as they perform, and they're backed by a 50-year transferable warranty.
So do we both encourage development because we're in a sort of AI arms race with countries like China versus what we need to do here in the U.S.? Let's take a listen. You can respond on the other side.
It's a really fascinating mindset, the mindset of these top AI executives. The way they see it is that there's a lot of risk here. There's a lot of reason for concern. But if they don't do it, someone else will. And sometimes they'll say that someone else is China. Sometimes the someone else is a rival U.S. CEO. And so from their perspective, they don't want to just unilaterally give up because then someone else will win. So that's why they really need the outside help.
So that question of outside help, it's like how much voluntary versus involuntary. Can you help me make sense of the kind of conflicting requests from these AI CEOs when it comes to regulation?
These regulations are voluntary on paper, mandatory in practice. If you want to look at an example for why that is the case, look at earlier this year when export controls were slapped on Anthropic, one of the leading U.S. AI companies, for not complying with the government's request fast enough and in a timely fashion. And so these AI companies, you know, they know that they're dealing with an administration that wants to be innovation first, deregulatory. But at the end of the day, there are real concerns among White House officials that if these technologies are running wild with no types of rules at all, it could really result in massive cybersecurity risks. And so it says voluntary on paper, but expect all of these companies to adhere to what these rules end up being.
Okay, Maria, thanks so much. We'll check in with you as we hope to hear news from the White House about this week.
Thank you.
And straight ahead on CNN this morning, domestic abuse allegations against a sitting congressman. Why he says this is not going to stop him from running for re-election. Plus, 3 rejected Republicans now looking for a different path. Is there a new party in the works? And then take a look at this. The 10th annual Dog Surfing Championship was held this weekend in Pacifica, California. Dogs of all sizes competed in waves alongside their human handlers.
I did not expect these results. It proves that what we're doing really touches upon 3 strategic pillars to tackle food security, water security, and climate security. We took a highly scientific approach to developing this biochar specifically for our desert soil. We came to Salal Innovation Oasis. We worked with partners in Khalifa Fund, Hub 71 in Abu Dhabi, and developed this solution from the desert for the desert.
Entyvio is the only gut-focused treatment for moderate to severe Crohn's and UC. Gut-focused Entyvio works right where you need it to block inflammation in your gut. With a legacy of more than 10 years, Entyvio offers the experience you need, lasting relief and steroid-free remission. And some people experience rapid symptom relief. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of liver problems and serious infection. Although unlikely, PML, a rare brain infection that can result in death, cannot be ruled out. Your doctor may test for TB. Tell your doctor if you are prone to or have an infection, sores, or flu-like symptoms. With Entyvio, you may be able to pay as little as $0 per dose. Ask your doctor if Entyvio, including the Entyvio pen, is right.
This as his former father-in-law, Senator Bernie Moreno, says he's not fit to serve. Now, Moreno was writing on X that Miller should not hold elected office and that he needs professional help to end, quote, a clear pattern of abuse. Now, Miller and the senator's daughter, Emily Moreno, have been in a contentious and public custody battle since their divorce. The statement coming after Miller appeared on a live stream in an attempt to clear his name over the weekend.
I have never abused our daughter. Every one of these allegations traces back to a single source, my former wife. Just want to be clear, no court, no agency has ever substantiated any allegation of abuse against me. I also want to address the allegations of domestic abuse. I categorically deny abusing my former wife. I'm not getting out of this race, and I'm winning in November.
So if Miller were to drop out of the race, the deadline for the Ohio Republican Party to replace him on this fall's ballot is August 10th. The group chat is back, and unfortunately, I am constantly doing stories like this. I just want to put up for you some names of alleged sexual misconduct in Congress. These are both closed and publicly disclosed matters. Eric Swalwell, of course, California, sexual misconduct, including with a staffer. Tony Gonzalez, also relationship with a staffer. He's Republican in Texas. Corey Mills, Republican, I believe, Florida. And people forget that George Santos, while everyone talked about his campaign finance issues, had also been accused of sexual harassment. The reason why I want to show these is because it turns out sexual misconduct allegations are not disqualifying. You will not be forced out of Congress if you were accused in any way, at any level of credibility.
Well, one of the clear through lines is, does your sexual misconduct also result in a criminal charge? And so this is actually audio where I think people are struggling with the line. A criminal charge very clearly spells the end of your congressional bid or your congressional seat. In these cases, a lot of the times these are allegations, and I'm not saying that they're not substantiated, but as is the case with Representative Miller, as he noted, it's just one person making the claim, and that one person has not been backed in a court necessarily that's resulted in a charge. So what does that mean for Congress moving forward? It means that everyone's trying to play the court of public opinion. And if you're the former father-in-law of Representative Miller, as is Senator Moreno, you have a difficult political calculus to make as well. Do you want to be the person who's not standing by your daughter, who is alleging sexual assault and violence against their daughter, which is his granddaughter? You don't want it to be your public perception if you're going to have a political career. So I understand why he's going to come out and say something. Whether or not he ultimately gets pushed out ahead of this deadline is a very serious thing for Ohio Republicans. Remember, the Democrats are trying to win the House. The Republicans are trying to defend it. This is a key state and a key seat. It's going to be very interesting to see how much pressure they put on it.
We should say Moreno, after holding back, has come out and made a very specific statement saying that he feared for his daughter, feared for his granddaughter. And you bringing him up reminds me of this reporting from Politico, where they say the allegations have Republicans, quote, silently sweating And then a GOP operative who wanted to remain anonymous says this: what happens when Democrats run ad after ad targeting GOP voters about Miller abusing the daughter of a pro-Trump MAGA senator? To your point of the conflicting tension here. Here's an example of how this could play out. Our own Casey Hunt talking with Jim Jordan. This happened on Thursday. Just an example of the exchange, and then I want my congressional pros to tell me what's up.
I just want to show you what you told Newsmax when you saw that Graham Plattner was facing these accusations. Watch.
That's always been the case with Democrats. It's all about maintaining power. They will take any crazy position as long as it furthers their ability to win elections and get power, and frankly, to go against anyone who goes against President Trump.
Why does that not apply here to Republicans who want to keep power in the seat?
Well, I don't know the context of the question I was asked about Mr. Plattner, but my guess is it was about all the ridiculous positions he's taken.
The banner there says Plattner's ex-girlfriend accuses him of abuse.
And the Nazi tattoo and everything else.
It's going to be a lot of this. I mean, like with Plattner, Democrats were asked every day for 2 weeks about allegations that were not as specific as this and did not involve massive court filings. So how do you answer?
Well, look, I think that I served in the first administration with Max, and what I would encourage him is that there's a lot more important things in life than being a member of Congress, and that he has a little child that he should be concerned about at this moment. This is a human tragedy playing out in front of the whole American public. But if you're asking the naked politics of it, Ohio's
about both, because one seems to drive the other. Plattner left. He eventually dropped out. Swalwell left.
Yeah, but
it's possible.
It's possible.
And during your term one,
it's not like the party acted on. Let's be clear. It's not like the party acted on Plattner. The reality is that Plattner had a Nazi tattoo that all Democrats are comfortable with. He was trafficking on child sex trafficking apps that Democrats were comfortable with. It wasn't until the final rape allegation that finally they said, "Hey, this is too much." So it's not.
What do you think will be too much with Miller? You're giving a long list here. What is your line? And I ask because, Miller had to have a defamation suit against Stephanie Grisham, who also in the first term raised this issue of abuse. And so what I want to know is what is the line and who draws it? Because it's not, what I don't understand about Congress is it used to be that if someone sat in your lap, Gary Hart, it was like, you're out. Obviously, we're past that point. You can get away with all kinds of things.
There's no doubt that there used to be a period in which the House and Senate ethics committees played a much stronger role in self-policing their own delegations than they do today. There's no doubt about that. But as far as, again, the sheer politics of Ohio, it's a state where, Republicans have had a strong hold the last several cycles. But Democrats have a really strong position this cycle. Sherrod Brown, all the polling is significantly up. The governor's race looks like the Democrats are performing better than people thought. And so this is the last thing Republicans in Ohio want, is the sitting senator and a House member having this internal fight in front of the entire public.
And it's a very public fight. He is very much coming out and saying he denies all allegations, that this is not true. He did a live stream where he gave his explanation. I want to give an example of that live stream. For instance, when he's talking about his relationship with his ex-wife.
6 days later, she offered to cook empanadas for me for dinner, just 2 days later after this alleged incident. So ask yourself, if I had assaulted her,
been able to beat back allegations.
I think about the Senator Al Franken incident all the time. To me, that was a turning point for people in Congress, where that incident, it very instantly canceled him and booted him out of Congress, where it might not have, if it had stood another test in time.
Yeah, people then expressed regret later after.
Yes.
And those are faceless allegations, in fact.
I do think, though, that, again, where this line, we do know where the clear line is, which is criminal charges. And so the question becomes, allegations, criminal charges, anywhere in between becomes a political battle. To what extent are your allies willing to back you? In this case, his own father-in-law is not backing him, and that's the most critical ally that he needs in Ohio. I think if the voters see that the party stands behind a person, then the voters are much more likely to stand behind the person. It's when you start to lose the support of your own party where you get caught.
The Republican speaker is standing behind Miller. And interestingly enough, this is going to be a vulnerability because Miller only won that seat by 51%. So this is going to be a real target where Democrats are going to throw a lot of money at this seat.
Okay, that's a surprise because they didn't expect to be spending money there. So I want to turn to something else, right? We've been talking for months about the measles outbreak, a lettuce parasite. So are we losing trust in our public health institutions in this post-pandemic era?
My eyelids have been so itchy and crusty. I think I'm becoming allergic to berry.
Blaming the cat? How convenient. You might have an eyelid mite infestation. It's common. It's called Demodex blepharitis. Say it with me.
Demodex blepharitis?
Yes, from eyelid mites. Call an eye doctor to see if you have mites.
This is the furniture you waited 250 years for. Genuine leather seats, lift top storage, pop-up sleeper.
Because nothing's more American than a sofa that's also a bed.
Oh, my Bob!
Bob's Discount Furniture.
What a hotel. Right? And only $250 a night for my favorite site.
To have an autistic child. Are you doing both?
Yeah, but Dana, you probably don't understand this because you're not a scientist, but
Well, you're not either.
All right, I was watching this yesterday, this interview between CNN's Dana Bash and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It lasted more than 20 minutes. They covered everything: the Secretary's history of vaccine skepticism, ongoing measles outbreak, the U.S. response to the COVID-19 pandemic, of course.
Anthony Fauci and the president had opinions, but the lockdowns were done by governors, and largely because they were hearing from hospitals saying that their ICUs were overrun and they needed some help while that was happening.
Well, that's not true. That's just not true.
It is
what
true.
You're saying it's not true. No, they were doing it because Anthony Fauci was telling them from the top, you need to lock down. There were ICUs that were empty all over the country, including in New York at the height.
So the group chat is back. I wasn't here last week, but I did keep an eye on the Fauci hearings. Was it worth taking another bite at the COVID response apple? Republicans are spending a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
Look, I think that a lot of Americans have lost trust in our public health officials. I think that a lot of the advice that was given on lockdowns was dead wrong. I think a lot of the advice, particularly shutting down schools, really hurt our kids. And I think there is a lot of distrust. I'm not sure that RFK is the one who's going to bring that trust back into the public health community for the general public. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure, what antagonizing Fauci really is going to do for voters come November.
The other weird thing is that there's a cyclospora outbreak, and everywhere I went, people asked me about lettuce, reading stories about farmers plowing under their lettuce because they can't sell it. Thousands of people have been sickened by this. And then you've got the measles outbreak that had happened. I just want to show you measles cases under Kennedy's term at Health and Human Services, cracking up by the 2,300 mark. And here's what he said about that at the time when he was asked about this.
It used to be when you and I were kids, everybody got measles. And the measles gave you lifetime protection against measles infection. The vaccine doesn't do that. The vaccine is effective for some people for life, but many people, it wanes. It causes all the illnesses that measles itself causes, encephalitis and blindness, etc. And so people ought to be able to make that choice for themselves. And what we need to do is give them the best information and encourage them to vaccinate.
Is he restoring trust?
No, I mean, I think he's sowing distrust, and that's, and for me, the question is, why? And Trump is not even a true believer. I mean, Trump took the COVID vaccine at the same time in which he was to some degree discouraging others to do the same. And so for me, there's something very sinister here about this effort to continue to question established science at the expense of American lives.
It is on brand for him and his history, however, and I think I've
But
been...
it's the effect of that is my point. You've got kids that are dying. You had 1.2 million people die from COVID, you know, and so that's really what this is about, is why people who are in public office are sowing distrust at the expense of American lives. I mean, that's
in the meantime, every time I open the paper, there's a new thing. Over the weekend, it was, let me see this, half states have reported the spread of a deadly fungus going on. And I kind of just want someone to tackle the things that are scary and spreading right now. What is his term teaching us about this process? Because Maha isn't necessarily happy with him. We know Trump isn't always happy with him, even around some vaccine issues. Where does this guy stand at this point?
So President Trump relied heavily on RFK's network of online influencers to get elected. Once RFK dropped out, Sage Steele and Danica Patrick and all of these sort of women, suburban women who care deeply about their kids, they migrated their vote over to President Trump. So as a result, President Trump wanted to keep in the good graces of RFK because he wanted to tap into that audience. Now, fast forward to where we are today. You don't get the sense from Donald Trump, President Trump, that he is as much of a vaccine skeptic as his Health and Human Services Secretary. Case in point, how much did he tout Operation Warp Speed? I'm the president that got those vaccines out. I'm the person that got the COVID pandemic stopped. He got the COVID vaccine. He has, made during COVID, he made some comments about ivermectin and all those types of things. Ultimately, the president has continued to see regular doctors and get normal health care. So you don't get the sense that he's against the health care system. But I also think that he sees the political advantage of retaining RFK's audience and the mentality that he has around it. There's also an irony, though, Audie, in that RFK, Mr. Health Purist, get the dyes out of my food, is working for President Trump, Mr. I like McDonald's and my steaks well done with ketchup.
Don't be hating on McDonald's, Sarah, okay? Before